Here is the fully adapted and localized story, translated into American English narrative prose. May I ask why your wife, her children, and your mother-in-law are invading my house every single day? You guys don't have a place of your own? Those were my exact words. My son immediately stood up from the table, threw his napkin onto his plate, and looked at me with a fury I had never seen in his eyes. If you don't let my family in, you can forget that you have a son. His voice echoed through the entire house. I just smiled. And what I answered next changed everything forever. But to understand how we got to that explosive moment, I need to tell you how this nightmare started, the one that destroyed my peace and almost ended my sanity. My name is Margaret. I am 62 years old, and for the last 4 months, I have been living through a situation I never imagined I would face. It all started so innocently, so normally, that I didn't see what was coming. My son, Jason, got married a year ago to Ashley, a woman 10 years his junior. Ashley has 2 daughters from a previous relationship, Chloe, who is 10, and Zoe, who is 8. When Jason introduced her to me, she seemed nice. She smiled a lot, brought cupcakes when they came to visit, and spoke with that sweetness that disarms anyone. The girls were polite, quiet, always glued to their mother like 2 identical shadows. I became a widow 2 years ago. My husband died of a heart attack while he was watering the plants in the garden one Sunday afternoon. Since then, I have lived alone in this 3-bedroom house that we bought together more than 30 years ago. I learned to cook for one person, to watch television without company, to enjoy the silence. I have my routines, my schedules, my order. I get up at 6 in the morning, drink coffee while looking at the garden, do my grocery shopping on Tuesdays, and clean on Fridays. A simple life, but mine. Every corner of this house has a memory. Every piece of furniture was chosen with care. It is not a mansion, but it is my space, my sanctuary, the only place where I can be myself without giving explanations. The first time Ashley showed up without warning was a Wednesday morning. I had just finished breakfast when I heard the doorbell. It was 8:30. I opened the door, and there she was with the 2 girls, all smiling. "Good morning, Margaret. Sorry we came so early, but I have a doctor's appointment nearby and thought I'd stop by to say hi while we wait for the time." It seemed odd to me, but what was I going to say to her? "Come on in." The girls ran into the living room. Ashley was carrying 2 large bags. "I brought some things for the girls, so they can entertain themselves." They settled onto my sofa like it was nothing. They turned on the television, took out notebooks, pencils, dolls. Ashley sat in my favorite armchair and started checking her phone. "Would you like a coffee?" I offered out of courtesy. "Oh, yes, thanks, Margaret. You're a sweetheart." I made coffee and served cookies that I had stored away. The doctor's appointment was at 11, according to what she told me. But at 11, they were still there. At 12 too. "Didn't you have an appointment?" I asked her carefully. "Oh yeah, they canceled it. They let me know a while ago. But since we are here, we'll stay a while longer. The girls are so comfortable. They left at 4 in the afternoon, 8 hours in my house. When they closed the door, I looked at the living room. There were crumbs on the sofa, toys scattered on the floor, dirty glasses on the coffee table, cushions out of place. It took me an hour to put everything back the way it was. I thought it had been an occasional thing, a coincidence. But on Friday, they returned. This time, they arrived at 9 in the morning. "Hi, Margaret. How are you?" "We came to keep you company." They didn't ask if they could come in. They simply walked in. Ashley brought more bags, this time with the girls' clothes. It's just that it is so hot at our house, and it is cooler here. They settled in again, television on, girls running around, Ashley in my kitchen fixing herself something to eat without asking. "Oh, Margaret, do you have turkey? The girls are hungry." She opened my refrigerator as if it were hers. She took out what she needed. She made sandwiches. She left everything dirty. I washed the dishes in silence while she looked at her phone in the living room. That night I called Jason. "Son, I need to talk to you about something." "Tell me, Mom, what's up?" "Ashley has come over twice this week with the girls, and they stay for many hours. I don't have a problem with them visiting, but I feel like it is too much time. I need my space too." There was an awkward silence. "Mom, They just want to spend time with you. Don't you like being with your family? It's not that, Jason. It's just that. It's just that what? Does my wife bother you? Do my stepdaughters bother you? His tone changed completely. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that. Look, Mom. Ashley told me that you get uncomfortable when they are there. I thought you were more open. They are my family now. He hung up before I could explain myself. I stood there with the phone in my hand, confused, feeling that something was not right, but unable to define exactly what it was. The following Monday they arrived at 7:30 in the morning. This time Brenda, Ashley's mom, came too. She was a woman of about 55, heavyset, with a loud voice and a boisterous laugh. Hi, Margaret. We finally meet. Ashley talks about you so much. She entered my house like a whirlwind, dropped her huge purse on my dining room table, sat in my armchair, and sighed. Oh, what a lovely house you have. You can feel the peace here. Peace. That word resonated in my head like a cruel irony. The peace she mentioned was exactly what I was about to lose forever. Brenda didn't ask if she could stay. She simply stayed. Ashley made coffee for the three of them without consulting me, using my favorite mugs, the ones my husband gave me for our 20th anniversary. The girls already knew the way to the living room. They turned on the television to a cartoon channel with the volume so high it gave me a headache. Don't they have things to do at their house? I asked, trying to sound polite. Brenda looked at me as if I had said something offensive. Oh, Margaret, what is wrong with family getting together? Families used to be close, not like now where everyone lives locked up. Ashley nodded while stirring the sugar in her coffee. It is true, Margaret. The girls adore you. They always ask when we are going to see you. I didn't recall the girls addressing more than 3 words to me in total. That day they stayed until 6 in the evening. Brenda fell asleep on my sofa after lunch, snoring so loudly that the walls seemed to vibrate. Ashley used my kitchen to prepare food, not just for herself, but also to take to her house. It's just that I don't feel like cooking tonight. Do you mind if I make something here? She was already taking out pots when she asked the question. She used my oil, my salt, my spices, my gas. She cooked chicken with rice and salad and filled several plastic containers she had brought in her bags. The smell stayed impregnated in the curtains for days. When they left, my kitchen looked like a war zone. Oil splatters on the stove, food scraps in the sink, the floor sticky, dirty dishes piled up to the ceiling. It took me 2 hours to clean everything. 2 hours while my back screamed at me that I was 62 years old and that this was not fair. The next day I thought they would have to stay at their house, do their own things, live their life. But at 8 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Again, the 3 of them. Brenda brought a small suitcase this time. Good morning, Margaret. How did you sleep? Ashley entered with the girls, who were already in pajamas. It is just that it is very hot in the apartment today. The air conditioning broke, and the technician can't come until Friday. Do you mind if we stay here for the day? Before I could answer, they were already inside. Brenda opened the suitcase in my living room and took out clothes, medicines, magazines, as if she were checking into a hotel. The girls ran to the kitchen. We are hungry, Grandma Margaret. Grandma. That word fell like a stone in my stomach. I was not their grandmother. We were not even blood relatives. But there they were, opening my pantry, taking out cereal, spilling milk on my freshly cleaned table. That day was eternal. Brenda took possession of the remote control and put on her favorite programs, those gossip shows and shouting matches that give me a headache. Ashley locked herself in the bathroom for an hour, came out with wet hair using my towels. Oh, sorry, Margaret. It is just that there is no hot water over there either. This house is a blessing. The girls played hide and seek, ran through the hallways, screamed, jumped on the furniture. When I asked them to be careful with a lamp that was an heirloom from my grandmother, Ashley looked at me with reproach. Margaret, they are little girls. Kids play. It is normal. You can't expect them to stand still like statues, Brenda added without taking her eyes off the television. That is the bad thing about people who haven't had children around for a long time. They forget what kids are like. I had Jason. I raised him alone for 5 years, while my husband worked in another city. I knew perfectly well what children were like, but I didn't say anything. I swallowed hard and went to my room. I called Jason from there. Son, I need us to talk seriously. Ashley, the girls, and your mother-in-law are here every day, from very early until very late. This cannot go on like this. I heard him sigh on the other end. Mom, we already talked about this. They are just looking for company. What is wrong with that? Jason, they use my house as if it were theirs. They cook, they shower, they sleep, they dirty everything. I didn't sign up for this. Dirty? Mom, they are your family now. Ashley told me that you treat her coldly, that you make her feel uncomfortable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I treat her coldly? Jason, she walks into my house without warning, uses my things without permission, and you tell me that I am the problem? Mom, don't start with that tone. Look, they have problems at the apartment. It is just temporary. Can't you be supportive for a few days? A few days? This has been going on for 2 weeks. It is a few more days. Mom, please, do it for me. For my marriage? For my happiness? Those last words disarmed me. For his happiness. I had always done everything for his happiness. When he was a boy and his father was away for weeks, I was mother and father. When he wanted to study at a private university that cost $20,000 a year, I sold my mother's jewelry to pay for it. When he got divorced from his first wife, I took him into this house for a whole year without charging him a single cent, all for his happiness. Okay, Jason. A few more days. I hung up, feeling defeated. I went back to the living room, and there were the 3 of them. As if nothing, as if this house were theirs, as if I were invisible. The days turned into weeks. Every morning, without fail, they arrived between 7 and 8. Brenda with her suitcase, Ashley with her bags, the girls with their backpacks full of toys. They took over my living room, my kitchen, my television, my peace. I took refuge in my bedroom, but the noise reached even there. The television at full volume, the girls screaming, Brenda laughing with those guffaws that made the pictures on the walls shake. I started having insomnia. I would wake up at 5 in the morning with anxiety, knowing that in 2 more hours the doorbell would ring and my house would stop being mine again. My fridge started emptying at an alarming rate. I did shopping for one person, calculated my expenses, had my budget tight with my widow's pension, which barely reached $2,000 a month. But now there were 5 mouths eating my food every day. The juice I bought on Monday was gone on Tuesday. The chicken I had saved for my Wednesday dinner disappeared on Tuesday afternoon. The cookies, the cheese, the turkey, the fruit, everything vanished. Ashley opened the refrigerator as if it were a public buffet. Oh, Margaret, can I borrow 2 eggs? I just want to make an omelet for the girls. Borrow. As if she were going to return them. Brenda made coffee 3-4 times a day, emptying my jar in a week, when before it lasted me a month. This coffee is delicious, Margaret. Where do you buy it? She would ask me while pouring herself the 4th cup of the day. One afternoon I dared to say something. Ashley was making sandwiches using the last bread I had left, the bread I had set aside for my breakfast the next day. Ashley, I need that bread for tomorrow. She looked at me surprised, with the knife full of mayonnaise suspended in the air. Seriously, Margaret? It is just bread. You can buy more tomorrow. It's just that tomorrow I am not going to the supermarket. I go on Tuesdays. Well, then you go today. The store is 10 minutes away. Brenda intervened from the living room, without even turning to look at me. Margaret, don't be like that. The girls are hungry. What do you want? For them to starve over some bread? I felt my face burning. It wasn't about the bread. It was about everything. About the constant invasion. About the lack of respect. About feeling like a foreigner in my own home. But I didn't say anything more. I went out to buy bread under the burning sun at 3 in the afternoon, walking those 4 blocks that, with the arthritis in my knees, felt like 4 miles. When I returned, Brenda was lying on my bed. On my bed. The door to my room was open, and there she was, with her shoes on top of my beige comforter that I had washed just 2 days before. Oh, Margaret, sorry. It is just that the sofa is occupied with the girls, and I needed to lie down for a while. I have terrible back pain. I stood in the doorframe, unable to process what I was seeing. That was my room, my sacred space, the only place where no one entered. My husband's photos were there on the nightstand, his watch that I never dared to move, his pillow that I still kept even though it didn't smell like him anymore. And this woman, this stranger I had barely known for 3 weeks, was there like it was nothing. Brenda, I would prefer if you didn't enter my room. She sat up slowly, with an exaggerated grimace of pain. Oh, Margaret, excuse me. I didn't know you were so territorial. It was just a moment. I'm leaving now. She left the room, dragging her feet, making suffering sounds. As she passed by me, she muttered loud enough for me to hear. What weird people, one can't even rest. That night I couldn't sleep in my bed. I changed the entire set of sheets, washed the comforter again. But the feeling of invasion wouldn't go away. I felt violated in my own space. At 2 a.m, I was still awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had reached this point. How had I allowed my life to turn into this nightmare? As a 62-year-old woman who had raised a son, who had worked for 30 years as a teacher, who had faced widowhood with dignity, now I couldn't defend my own territory. The next day, I decided to speak clearly. I waited for them to arrive, and they arrived promptly at 8 a.m. When they entered, before they settled in, I stopped them. I need to talk to you all. Ashley put her bags on the floor. Brenda stood there with a curious face. The girls ran to the living room, ignoring me completely. Look, I understand that you have problems at your apartment, but this has been going on for too long. I need my space, my privacy. I can't go on like this. There was a thick silence. Ashley looked at Brenda. Brenda looked at Ashley. It was Ashley who spoke first, with that soft voice she used when she wanted to seem reasonable. Margaret, I understand that you are tired. It is hard having people in the house all the time, but we don't have anywhere to go. The apartment is still without air conditioning, and now water is leaking from the ceiling too. The landlord won't respond. What do you want us to do? Have the girls get sick from the heat and humidity? Brenda added with a grave tone. Margaret, family helps each other in difficult times. When one has, one shares. My daughter is going through a complicated situation, and you have this huge house just for yourself. Doesn't that seem selfish to you? Selfish. That word hit me like a slap. It is not selfishness to want my own house for myself. Of course it is, Brenda responded, crossing her arms. You have 3 bedrooms, and you live alone. Ashley, the girls, and I would fit perfectly here. But no. You prefer your comfort over the well-being of your own family. You are not my family. The words came out before I could stop them. The silence that followed was terrifying. Ashley opened her mouth, her eyes filled with instant tears. How can you say that, Margaret? I am married to your son. These girls are your granddaughters now. We are your family, whether you like it or not. Tears ran down her cheeks, but something in her look told me they were not genuine. Brenda pointed her finger at me. You are a cruel woman, Margaret. A bitter and cruel woman. It is no wonder you live alone. That afternoon I called Jason crying. I told him everything. The invasion of my room, the exaggerated spending on food, the lack of respect, the hurtful words. Mom, enough. You are exaggerating everything. Ashley told me that you told her they are not your family. How could you say that to her? Jason, I didn't mean to. No, Mom, there is no excuse. Ashley is devastated. The girls are confused. Brenda says you treated them like intruders. Because they are. Jason, this is my house. I didn't ask for this. They arrive without warning, stay all day, use my things, spend my food, sleep in my bed. How am I not going to feel invaded? Mom, they need help. They have real problems at the apartment. What did you want them to do? What to do? Tell it to you. You are the husband. You are the one who should solve your family's problems. Why does it have to be me? There was a long pause. When Jason spoke again, his voice was cold as ice. Because you are my mother? Because family is supposed to help each other. But I see that for you, your comfort is more important than your own son. Jason, that is not fair. Do you know what isn't fair, Mom? That Ashley and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment while you have this huge house. That we suffer in the heat in that place while you have air conditioning in every room. That we struggle to make ends meet while you have your own house without owing anything to anyone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jason, your father and I paid for this house for 30 years. We worked, we sacrificed, We saved. This house is the fruit of a lifetime, and now only you use it. How convenient." He hung up. I stood with the phone in my hand, trembling from head to toe. For 3 days, I heard nothing from them. Neither Ashley, nor Brenda, nor the girls appeared at my house. Jason didn't answer my calls either. The silence was deafening, but for the first time in weeks, I could breathe in my own house. I deep cleaned everything, washed the curtains that smelled like the food Ashley cooked, disinfected my room, tidied the living room. I went back to my routines. I got up early. I drank my coffee in peace, looking at the garden. I watched my favorite shows without background noise. But the tranquility came accompanied by a guilt that ate me up inside. Had I been too harsh? Was I being the bitter mother-in-law everyone hated? Was I really selfish for wanting my space? On the 4th day, the doorbell rang at 9 in the morning. It was Jason. He came alone, with a serious face, arms crossed. "Mom, we have to talk." I let him in, offered him coffee, but he declined with a curt gesture. We sat in the living room, him on the edge of the sofa, as if ready to leave at any moment. "Ashley is doing very badly. She cries every night. The girls ask why Grandma Margaret doesn't love them anymore. Brenda says she had never met anyone so cold. Every word was a stab." "Jason, I never said I don't love them. I just asked for respect for my space. Your space, your space. That is the only thing that matters to you, right? While your family suffers, you only think about your comfort." I leaned forward, looking for his eyes which were evading me. "Son, look at me. This situation is not normal. They came every day from 7 in the morning until 6 or 7 at night. They used everything without asking for permission. They slept in my bed, emptied my refrigerator. How is that normal?" Jason finally looked at me, but in his eyes, I didn't see understanding, only annoyance. "And what did you want them to do? The apartment is in terrible condition. The landlord doesn't fix anything. It was unbearably hot. Water was leaking. You wanted the girls to get sick. I wanted you to tell me. For you to come and tell me, 'Mom, we have a problem. Can you help us?' For you to ask my permission, for us to agree on something together, not for them to simply invade my house as if it were theirs." Jason stood up, walked to the window, stood looking out with his hands in his pockets. "Mom, they shouldn't have to ask you for permission. It is your family. The door of this house should always be open for us. Jason, you have an apartment. You have your own home." He turned around abruptly. "A 2-bedroom apartment that costs $1,500 a month. Ashley doesn't work because she has to take care of the girls. I earn barely $3,000. After paying rent, utilities, food, the girls' uniforms, transportation, we are left with pennies. Pennies. Mom, while you live here alone in this 3-bedroom house without paying a mortgage." There it was. The true reason behind everything. It wasn't just the broken air conditioning or the water leaks. It was resentment. It was envy. "Jason, your father and I bought this house with the sweat of our brow. He worked 12 hours a day. I taught classes and also did tutoring on weekends. We sacrificed for 30 years to pay for this house. It wasn't given to us. But now it is just yours. Dad isn't here anymore. You alone don't need all this space." I stood up, feeling indignation run through my body. "This house is mine because I paid for it, because I earned it, and I have every right to decide who enters and who doesn't, even if that decision hurts your own family. They are not my family. Ashley is your wife, not my daughter. Those girls have a biological father somewhere. Brenda is a complete stranger to me." The silence that followed was like an abyss between us. Jason looked at me as if I were a monster. "I can't believe you think like that. When I was a boy, you taught me that family was the most important thing, that family always supports each other. But now it turns out those values only applied when they were convenient for you. Jason, supporting family doesn't mean losing your identity, your space, your mental peace. It means sacrificing, Mom. It means putting others before yourself. But you don't know how to do that anymore. You became selfish. That word again, selfish. As if defending my boundaries were a sin. Leave, Jason. Get out of my house. You see, that is the only thing you know how to do. Kick people out, set boundaries, close doors, Dad would be disappointed in you." That last sentence split me in two. Tears began to roll down my cheeks uncontrollably. "Don't you dare speak for your father. Don't you dare." Jason walked toward the door. He opened it, but before leaving, he turned one last time. "Ashley was right. You are a bitter woman who prefers to be alone than make a small sacrifice for her family. Enjoy your empty house, Mom. Enjoy your space. I hope it is worth it." The door closed with a slam that resonated through the whole house. I let myself fall onto the sofa, crying like I hadn't cried since my husband's funeral. Was what he said true? Had I become a selfish person? Was I wrong? The doubts consumed me. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I should be more flexible. Maybe I was exaggerating everything. I spent the rest of the day in a state of total confusion, questioning every decision I had made. 2 days later, I received a text message from Ashley. It was long, full of sweet words but with a hidden edge. "Margaret, I am very sorry if we did something that bothered you. It was never our intention to invade your space. We were just looking for a safe place for the girls while we resolved the apartment problems. I know I am not your daughter, but I would like you to see me as such. The girls love you. They ask about you every day. Chloe made a drawing for you at school. Zoe says she misses your cookies. Jason is very sad. He isn't sleeping well. All this is affecting our marriage. I don't want to be the cause of a mother and son distancing themselves. If you need more time alone, we understand. But I would like you to know that this house was always a refuge for us. Here we felt safe, like family, loved. I hope we can resolve this soon. We love you, Margaret, even if you don't love us." I read the message 5 times. Every line was a manipulation perfectly disguised as love. It made me feel guilty for setting boundaries. It made me responsible for the problems in her marriage. She used the girls as an emotional shield. And that last line, "even if you don't love us," was the final blow. I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. Anything I said would be used against me. Another week went by. A week of absolute silence. No message, no call, no visit. Part of me felt relieved, but another part, a bigger part than I wanted to admit, felt devastated. I missed my son. Not Ashley, not Brenda, not the chaos they brought with them, but Jason. My boy who was now 35 years old and looked at me as if I were his enemy. At night, when the house was silent, I wondered if it was worth it. If defending my space was worth losing my only son. If the peace I yearned for so much was actually loneliness in disguise. I found myself looking at the phone, waiting for it to ring, wanting to give in, wanting to call and say that everything was fine, that they could come back, to forget everything that had happened. But then I remembered. I remembered Brenda sleeping in my bed with her shoes on. I remembered my empty refrigerator. I remembered the sleepless nights, the anxiety every morning, the feeling of being a stranger in my own home. I remembered that for 4 full weeks, I hadn't had a single day of peace, and the guilt mixed with the anger, the sadness with the indignation, until I didn't know what to feel anymore. On Sunday afternoon, when I least expected it, the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. I ran to open it, thinking it was Jason, that he had come to apologize, that we were going to fix everything. But when I opened the door, there were the 4 of them. Jason, Ashley, and the 2 girls. Brenda wasn't coming, but the expressions on their faces told me this wasn't a reconciliation visit. "Hi, Mom. Can we come in?" Jason's voice was neutral, neither cold nor warm. "Sure. Come on in." They sat in the living room, the girls on the sofa between their parents, all in a row, like a united front. I sat in my armchair, hands on my knees, waiting. It was Ashley who spoke first, with that soft voice I already knew so well. "Margaret, we came to talk to you because we can't go on like this. This situation is affecting all of us. The girls don't understand what happened. Jason is depressed. I feel terrible. And you, well, I imagine you are suffering too." I didn't answer. I just looked at them, waiting for them to get to the real point of the visit. Jason took his turn. "Mom, we have been thinking a lot about all this, and I think we arrived at a solution that could work for everyone." Something in my stomach twisted. "Ashley and I have decided that the best thing is for us to move in here with you, permanently." The words floated in the air like toxic smoke. I froze, unable to process what I had just heard. What? My voice came out as a whisper. Ashley leaned forward, with a smile that pretended to be reassuring. Margaret, listen to me. It makes a lot of sense. This house has 3 bedrooms. You use only 1. We are paying $1,500 rent in a horrible place. If we move here, we could save that money, help you with the household expenses, and we would all be together like a real family, Jason continued. Clearly, they had rehearsed this speech. Think about it, Mom. You wouldn't have to pay all the utilities alone anymore. We would split the expenses. I would take care of the house maintenance, the repairs. Ashley could cook for everyone. It would be more economical. The girls would have a garden to play in. And you wouldn't be alone. You would have company, family around. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a nightmare. No, the word came out firm, clear, definitive. Ashley's face changed instantly. The sweetness disappeared. No? You aren't even going to consider it? There is nothing to consider. This is my house. I am not going to turn it into a shared house. Jason stood up, his face reddening. Of course not. How did I not see it coming? You prefer living alone in this huge house than helping your own son? Ashley stood up too, took the girls by the hands. Come on, girls. Let's go. It is clear that we are not welcome here. Chloe, the oldest, looked at me with teary eyes. Why do you hate us, Grandma Margaret? Those words went through me like knives. I don't hate you, sweetie. I don't. Ashley pulled her by the arm. Come on, Chloe. Don't talk to people who don't love us. Jason walked toward the door, but before leaving he turned around. You know what, Mom? Ashley was right from the beginning. She warned me that you were selfish, that you only thought about yourself. I defended you. I told her my mother wasn't like that. But I was wrong. She knows you better than I do. The words left me breathless. Jason, that isn't fair. You know what isn't fair? That we have to choose between paying rent or buying decent food. That the girls share a tiny bedroom while you have 2 empty bedrooms. That I, your only son, have to beg you for a little help. I stood up, feeling the rage starting to overcome the pain. I never asked you to marry someone with 2 daughters. I never asked you to rent an apartment you can't afford. Those were your decisions, Jason, not mine. Sure. Throw it in my face that I married a woman with children. That is very Christian of you, Mom. Very charitable. I am not throwing anything in your face. I am just saying that your financial problems are not my responsibility. Ashley let out a bitter laugh. Your financial problems. Did you hear that, Jason? To her, we are just a problem. Jason pointed his finger at me, shaking with anger. When Dad died, I was here every day. Every day, Mom. I accompanied you at the funeral. I stayed with you the nights you couldn't sleep. I sorted out all the insurance papers. I paid expenses that you couldn't cover. And this is how you pay me back? Denying me a place in the house that I also consider my home? That last phrase uncorked something in me. Something I had been holding back for weeks. This is not your house, Jason. This is my house. Your father and I bought it. Your name is not on any paper. You lived here until you were 23. Then you left. This house is mine. The silence was absolute. Even the girls stopped moving. Jason looked at me as if he didn't recognize me. I can't believe you said that. It is the truth. The truth. Sure, the truth is that you are a lonely, bitter woman who prefers to die surrounded by empty furniture than share something with her family. Ashley put her hand on Jason's shoulder in a perfectly calculated gesture of support. Love, let's go. We did what we could. Some people simply don't have a heart. They walked toward the door. Jason stopped on the threshold, without turning to look at me. Don't call me Mom again. Don't come looking for me again. To me, starting today, you don't have a son anymore. The door closed, leaving me alone in the most dreadful silence I had experienced in my life. I stood in the middle of the living room, trembling, with tears running down my cheeks, but without making a sound. I had just lost my son. I had just broken the only family I had left. And all for what? For defending my space. For refusing to be invaded. Had it been worth it? That night, I didn't sleep. Not that night, nor the next 3. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every gesture, Every moment of that horrible conversation, Jason's words resonated in my head like funeral bells. To me, starting today, you don't have a son anymore. How had it come to this? At what moment did defending my boundaries turn into losing my only son? I would get up at 3 in the morning and walk through the empty house. This house that now seemed like a mausoleum to me. Every room was silent. Every corner reminded me of what I had just lost. I picked up the phone 100 times, thinking of calling him, of giving in, of telling him yes, to move in, to do whatever they wanted, just so I wouldn't lose him. But then something inside me, something small but firm, stopped me. Days passed slow as years. I stopped eating well. I lost weight. The dark circles under my eyes became permanent. My friends called, but I didn't answer. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to hear advice or words of comfort. I just wanted everything to go back to how it was before, when my son loved me, when there was no Ashley nor Brenda, nor this invisible war that was destroying me from the inside. One afternoon, a neighbor I had known for 20 years knocked on my door. Her name was Nancy. She was 70 years old and had always been direct to the point of brutality. "Margaret, open that door. I know you are there." I opened it because I knew she was capable of standing there knocking for hours. She entered without waiting for an invitation, looked me up and down, and shook her head. "You look terrible. When was the last time you ate something decent?" She made me sit in the kitchen and made tea without asking if I wanted any. She put cookies on a plate in front of me. "Now you are going to tell me what the hell is going on." And I told her. Everything. From Ashley's first visit to the last conversation with Jason, I spoke for an hour nonstop, letting out all the poison I carried inside. When I finished, Nancy remained silent for a long minute. Then she said something I will never forget. "Margaret, do you know what your mistake is? That you keep thinking you did something wrong." I looked at her without understanding. "They manipulated you from day one. This was never about a broken air conditioner or water leaks. This was a calculated invasion to soften you up, to make you feel guilty, so that in the end you would agree to them moving in here. And when it didn't work, they used the dirtiest card of all, your own son, as an emotional hostage." Her words hit me like a bucket of cold water. "But Jason is my son. He can't be manipulating me. Jason is a grown man who chose to marry a woman who clearly knows how to pull strings. And now he is paying the price. But that is not your problem, Margaret. Your problem is that you believe being a mother means sacrificing yourself until you disappear. And that is a lie." I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. "But he said I don't have a son anymore. He said that in a moment of rage, manipulated by his wife. But you, Margaret, you don't have to carry that guilt. You defended your house, your space, your life. There is nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing." Nancy left an hour later, but her words stayed with me. That night, for the first time in days, I was able to sleep for a few hours. 2 more weeks passed. 2 weeks where little by little I started to recover my routine. I went back to cooking for myself, back to taking care of my plants, back to watching my shows. The house no longer felt like a mausoleum but like my home again. Jason's absence still hurt. I still felt that hole in my chest every time I thought of him, but I didn't feel guilty anymore. I no longer felt like the villain of this story. I had set boundaries, healthy, necessary, fair boundaries. And if that made me the bad guy, then so be it. One Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after that last conversation, the doorbell rang. My heart raced. I went to open it with trembling hands. It was Jason. He came alone, without Ashley, without the girls. He had dark circles under his eyes, looked tired, had lost weight. "Hi, Mom." His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Hi, son." We stood in the doorway for seconds that seemed eternal. "Can I come in?" "Of course." We went into the living room, sat in the same places as always. Him on the sofa, me in my armchair. The silence was thick, but not hostile. Finally, he spoke. "Mom, I need to talk to you. I need you to listen to me without interrupting, because if you interrupt me, I won't be able to say what I came to say." I nodded, my heart beating so hard I was sure he could hear it. "The last few weeks have been hell. Ashley and I have been fighting every day. She says you hate her, that you have treated her badly from the beginning, that you destroyed our chance to have financial stability. I defended her. I told her you just needed time, that you were going to reconsider, but she kept going and going, pressuring me, crying, telling me that if I really loved her, I would do something, that if I really were a good husband, I would find a way to give her a better life. He paused, ran his hands over his face. 3 days ago, I had a conversation with Brenda. She came to our apartment, something she almost never does, and started talking about this house, about how you lived here alone, about how much wasted space there was, about how it was unfair that you had so much and we had so little. And then she said something that made me open my eyes. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. She said, "When Margaret dies, this house is going to be Jason's anyway. So, why not speed up the inevitable? If we get them to move in here, in a few years she gets used to it, and when the time comes, the house will practically already be ours." My mouth dropped open in shock. Jason raised his hand. "Wait, let me finish." When I heard that, something clicked in my head. I started remembering things. How Ashley always found excuses to come here. How Brenda installed herself in your house as if it were her own. How every time I tried to set boundaries or suggest that maybe they were exaggerating, Ashley cried and made me feel guilty. How after every visit, she made comments about how big the house was, about how much space there was, about how the girls would be better off here. He stood up and started pacing the living room. That night, I confronted Ashley. I asked her directly if all this had been planned. She denied it, of course. She cried, accused me of being crazy, said I was choosing my mother over my family. But I insisted, and finally, after 2 hours of fighting, she admitted that yes, from the beginning the idea was that eventually we would move in here, that Brenda had suggested the plan to her, that it was the perfect solution for our financial problems. Tears started rolling down my cheeks uncontrollably. Jason knelt in front of me, took my hands in his. "Mom, I am so sorry. I am sorry for saying all those horrible things to you. I am sorry for pressuring you. I am sorry for not listening to you when you told me you felt invaded. You were right about everything, about absolutely everything." I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I cried from relief, from pain, from contained rage. Jason hugged me and cried with me. We stayed like that for minutes that seemed like hours. When we finally separated, he sat on the floor in front of me, still holding my hands. "I didn't come to ask you to forgive me. I don't expect you to forget what I did to you. I only came to tell you that you were right, that I deeply regret having treated you like that, and that I understand if you don't want to know anything about me anymore." I wiped my tears. I took a deep breath. "Jason, you are my son. You are always going to be my son. But I need you to understand something. This house is mine. My space is mine. And I am never going to apologize for defending that." Jason nodded slowly, his eyes still red from crying. "I understand, Mom, and you have every right. I was an idiot. I let them manipulate me, let them make me believe that you were the problem when the problem was us. Ashley, Brenda, and me." He fell silent for a moment, looking at our intertwined hands. "There is something else you need to know. Something I discovered 2 days ago that made me see everything with absolute clarity." He got up from the floor and sat back on the sofa, as if he needed distance to be able to say what was coming. The apartment never had serious problems. The air conditioning worked perfectly. There were never water leaks. I felt the world stop. "What?" Ashley lied. "Everything was a lie from the beginning. I called the landlord to ask him about the supposed repairs he never did. He had no idea what I was talking about. He told me we had never reported any problem, that the only maintenance he had done in the last year was changing a burnt-out light bulb in the hallway." Rage started to boil in my chest. "Are you telling me that everything, absolutely everything, was a lie to justify the invasion of my house?" Jason nodded, head down, ashamed. "Yes, Mom. When I confronted Ashley with this, first she denied it. But then, when I showed her the texts from the landlord, she changed strategy. She told me that yes, she had lied, but that she had done it for us, for our future, because we were drowning financially and needed a solution. She told me that you had this huge house and that it was selfish not to share it with your own family." I closed my eyes, breathing deep to control the fury that threatened to overwhelm me. Jason, do you understand the magnitude of what you are telling me? During a whole month, this woman invaded my house, used my things, spent my money, slept in my bed, made me feel guilty, manipulated me, all based on a lie. I know, Mom. I know. And I have no excuse. I should have verified. I should have listened to you. I should have set boundaries from the beginning, but I was blinded. Ashley is very good at manipulating. She is very convincing. When she cries, when she uses that soft voice, when she makes me feel like I am a bad husband if I don't do what she wants, I simply give in. I leaned forward, looking him straight in the eyes. Jason, you are 35 years old. You are a grown man. You can't keep making excuses. If she manipulates you, it is because you allow it. He lowered his gaze, nodding. You are right, and that is something I have to work on. I already started therapy. My first session was yesterday. That surprised me. Therapy. Yes, I need to understand why I allow these types of dynamics, why I don't set boundaries, why I prioritize Ashley's comfort over everything else, even over my own mother. The therapist told me I have very marked codependency patterns, that I seek approval constantly, that I have a fear of abandonment. I felt my heart tighten. As a mother, you always ask yourself what you did wrong, what you could have done differently. Jason, why are you afraid of abandonment? He shrugged, with a sad smile. Maybe because Dad was always working when I was a kid. Maybe because my first marriage ended with my ex-wife leaving me for another guy. I don't know, Mom. I am still discovering it. But what I do know is that it doesn't justify how I treated you. Nothing justifies it. We stayed in silence for a while, a silence that was no longer uncomfortable but reflective. Finally, I asked what I needed to know. What is going to happen now with your marriage? Jason sighed deeply. I don't know, Mom. Honestly, I don't know. Ashley is furious because I confronted her. She says I am exaggerating, that what she did wasn't that serious, that all women do the same to protect their families. Brenda stopped talking to me. She blocked me on her phone. The girls feel the tension but don't understand what is happening. And what do you feel? He looked at me with tired eyes. Eyes that had seen too much in very little time. I feel like I married someone I don't really know. That during this year I only saw what she wanted me to see. I feel like she used me to get to you, to this house, and I feel like an idiot for not having seen it sooner. He stood up and walked to the window, looking at the garden his father had planted years ago. But there are also the girls. Chloe and Zoe aren't to blame for any of this. I committed to them when I married Ashley. I can't just abandon them. Jason, no one is asking you to abandon anyone. But you can't stay in a relationship where you are constantly manipulated either. I know, that's why the therapy. I need tools to handle this, to set healthy boundaries, to make decisions from a place of clarity and not guilt or fear. I got up and went to him. I put my hand on his shoulder. Son, whatever happens with your marriage, I am going to be here. But I need you to understand something very clearly. This house is not an option for you guys. Not now. Not ever. Not because I hate you, not because I am selfish, but because this is my house and I have the right to live in peace in it. Jason turned toward me, his eyes shining with fresh tears. I understand, Mom. And I am not going to ask you again. Ever. I promise you. And Ashley understands it. He shook his head. Ashley is convinced that eventually you will give in. She says all mothers give in at the end, that it is just a matter of pressing enough. But I already made it clear to her that isn't going to happen, that your decision is final and that I respect it. And how did she react? She told me I was choosing my mother over my family. I replied that my mother is my family, that she has no right to make me choose, and that if our marriage depends on manipulating my mom to get a free house, then maybe it isn't a marriage worth saving. I was surprised by that response. My son was showing a backbone I didn't know he had. I am glad to hear you speak like that, Jason. I really am glad. He smiled sadly. I wish I had spoken like that from the beginning. I wish I had set boundaries when the daily visits started. I wish I had listened to you when you told me you felt invaded. I would have saved you so much pain, Mom. It is over, son. The important thing is that now you see it clearly. Jason came closer and hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. And I am so, so sorry for everything I made you go through. The horrible things I said to you. The way I treated you. You didn't deserve any of that. I hugged him back, feeling how that knot in my chest that I had carried for weeks finally started to loosen. I love you too, son. I am always going to love you. We separated, and he wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I should go. Ashley doesn't know I am here. If she finds out there is going to be another giant fight, are you afraid of her? The question came out before I could stop it. Jason stood thinking a moment. Not physical fear, but yes, emotional fear. Fear of her tears, her accusations, the way she can make me feel like the worst person in the world with just a few words. But I am working on that. The therapist says that is also manipulation, that it is emotional abuse, even if there are no punches or screams. I felt a chill. My son was in an abusive relationship and was just beginning to realize it. Jason, if you need to get out of there, if you need a place to stay while you figure things out, this door is open for you. Just for you. Not for Ashley, not for Brenda, not for anyone else. Just for you. He nodded, with fresh tears running down his cheeks. Thanks, Mom. That means the world to me. He walked to the door, but before leaving, he turned one last time. Mom, there is something else I want you to know. When I told you that you didn't have a son anymore, it was the lowest moment of my life. I didn't feel it. I never felt it. I said it because Ashley was pressuring me, because I felt I had to pick a side. But you never stopped being my mom, not for a single second. I know, son. I know. He left the house, and I watched him walk away down the street toward his car. He looked hunched, tired, broken. But he also looked a little lighter, as if confessing all that had lifted a weight off him. I closed the door and leaned against it, letting out a long, deep sigh. Not everything was resolved. Jason still had a difficult road ahead. But at least now, he knew the truth, and I knew I had done the right thing by defending my boundaries. The following days were strange. Jason called me every night, in secret as he told me, from the bathroom or from his car parked in front of some store. He told me how things were going at his house, that they weren't going well. Ashley had entered silent mode. That type of icy silence that is worse than any scream. She didn't speak to him directly. She communicated with him through the girls. Tell your stepfather dinner is ready. Ask your stepfather if he is going to pay the electric bill this month, or if he is also going to ignore that responsibility like he ignores his family. Brenda had returned to the apartment and was living with them temporarily, according to what Jason told me. She had arrived with 2 suitcases, saying her daughter needed her in this difficult time, that Ashley was suffering a terrible depression because of the evil mother-in-law who rejected her. Mom, I can't take it anymore. I come home from work, and the 3 of them are in the living room, looking at me as if I were a traitor. Brenda makes passive-aggressive comments all the time. The girls are confused. They ask me why we don't go see you anymore, why Grandma Margaret doesn't love them. Ashley cries at night. She says I destroyed her dream of having a stable family, that because of me, her daughters are going to grow up in a miserable apartment. I listened to all this with a heavy heart. I hated that my son was suffering, but I also knew this was necessary. It was the price of waking up from a manipulation that had lasted too long. Son, I know it is hard, but you are doing the right thing. You are setting boundaries. You are defending what is fair. And what if I am wrong, Mom? What if I really am a bad husband? What if I should be more flexible? Jason, being flexible doesn't mean allowing yourself to be manipulated. There is a huge difference between compromise and submission. 1 week after that conversation in my house, Jason called me on a Thursday night. It was 11:30. His voice sounded weird, controlled but shaky. Mom, can I come to your house? Right now. I need to talk to you. Of course, son. Come over. He arrived 20 minutes later. He had a small backpack. When I opened the door, I saw he had a bruise on his left cheekbone. Jason, what happened? Who did that to you? He entered quickly, closed the door behind him, and collapsed on the sofa. Ashley. Well, not exactly. It was an accident, but also not an accident. I sat next to him, my heart beating fast. Explain to me what happened. I got home from work and told her we needed to talk, that things couldn't go on like this, that her mother had to leave the apartment because the situation was unsustainable, that we needed couples therapy if we wanted to save the marriage. She exploded. She started screaming that I was ungrateful, that her mother had left her home to support her, that I was poisoned by you, that you had achieved your goal of destroying her family. He touched the bruise carefully. I told her to stop, that the girls were listening. She screamed louder, saying the girls needed to know the truth, that they needed to know their stepfather was a weak man who chose his mom over them. I tried to go to the bedroom to end the argument. She followed me, blocked the door. I asked her to move. She pushed me. I tried to move her out of the way without hurting her. She grabbed a book from the table and threw it at my face. I closed my eyes, feeling rage rising in my throat. Jason, that is violence. I know, Mom. And the worst part wasn't that. The worst part was what happened next. When the book hit me and I touched my face, Brenda came running out of her room screaming that I had hit Ashley. She started calling me an abuser, a wife beater, saying she was going to call the police. The girls came out crying. Chloe was screaming not to get near her mom. Everything was total chaos. I tried to explain what had happened, but no one listened to me. Ashley started crying, saying she was afraid of me, that she never thought I was capable of violence. Brenda screamed at me to get out of the house, that I wasn't welcome there. The girls looked at me terrified. Mom, I didn't touch a hair on her head. I would never lay a hand on anyone. But they twisted everything, turned it around completely. I put my hand over his. Son, what you just described is abusive manipulation. It is gaslighting. They made you look like the aggressor when you were the victim. He nodded, with tears rolling down his cheeks. I know. The therapist warned me this could happen. He told me that when manipulative people feel they are losing control, they escalate, that they look for ways to make you look like the villain. But it is one thing to know it in theory, and another thing to live it. What did you do after? I grabbed this backpack, threw in some clothes, my important documents, and left. Ashley was screaming at me from the window not to come back, that she was going to change the locks, that she was going to ask for a restraining order. Brenda was saying she was going to tell the whole world what kind of violent man I was. I just got in the car and drove here. I hugged him tight, feeling his body shake. You did right by coming here. You are going to stay here as long as you need. Are you sure, Mom? I don't want to cause you more problems. Jason, you are my son. This is different. You aren't coming to invade my space. You are coming because you need refuge. And this door is always going to be open for you. He separated and looked at me with red eyes. Thanks, Mom. I don't know what I would do without you. That night, I prepared the guest room for him. I gave him clean sheets, towels, heated up some food because he hadn't had dinner. I watched him eat in silence, with that bruise on his face that broke my heart. My son, my baby that I had raised with so much love, was being emotionally abused by the woman who promised to love him. And the worst part was that he still felt guilty, still questioned if he had done the right thing. Mom, do you think I am a coward for having left? Coward? Jason, leaving was the bravest thing you could have done. Staying would have been easier. Enduring, apologizing, letting them keep manipulating you. But leaving, recognizing that something is wrong, seeking help, that requires courage. But the girls, Mom, Chloe, and Zoe, they saw me leave. Now they are going to believe I abandoned them. They are their mother's responsibility. You are not their biological father. And even though you love them, even though you care about their well-being, you can't sacrifice your mental health for them. Jason finished the food and left the fork on the plate with a sigh. My therapist told me something similar, that I need to differentiate between responsibility and artificial guilt, that Ashley used the girls as a manipulation tool from the beginning, that every time I tried to set a boundary, she put the girls in the middle to make me feel bad. Exactly. And that is emotional abuse, Jason. Using children as hostages is one of the dirtiest tactics there is. He nodded slowly. I am seeing it now. But for so long I was blind. I thought it was love. I thought it was family. I thought that's how things worked. No, son. That is not how things work. Healthy relationships have communication, respect, clear boundaries. They don't have manipulation or emotional blackmail or violence. He stayed silent for a long while, looking at his empty plate. Do you think my marriage has salvation? The question hurt me because I knew the answer, but I knew he needed to reach it by himself. Do you think it has salvation? Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to believe yes, that if we go to couples therapy, if Ashley recognizes what she did, if she sets boundaries with her mother, maybe we could fix it. But another part of me, a part that grows bigger every day, knows this isn't going to change. That Ashley is like that she is always going to manipulate, always going to use the girls, always going to play the victim when she doesn't get what she wants. And what does your therapist say? He says no one can answer that question for me, that I have to decide how much I am willing to tolerate, what kind of life I want to live, what price I am willing to pay. But he also says that manipulative people rarely change, that the pattern only intensifies with time. I nodded, knowing all that was true. Son, whatever your decision is, I am going to be here. If you decide to go back, if you decide to get divorced, if you decide to try again, I am going to respect it. But what I am not going to do is allow them to manipulate me again. This house is still mine. That boundary is not going to change ever. I know, Mom, and I appreciate it. I needed to hear it clearly. I needed to know there is a place where I can come without conditions, without manipulation, without having to walk on eggshells. That night, after Jason went to sleep, I stayed awake in the living room, thinking about everything. About how a simple visit had turned into this 2-month nightmare. About how I almost lost my son. About how defending my boundaries had been the hardest thing I had done in years, but also the most necessary. And I thought about Ashley, about Brenda, about their calculated plan to keep my house, about how they had used every emotional weapon available. And I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. I felt peace, because I had won. Not in an obvious way, not in a way they would recognize, but I had won because I was still the owner of my life, of my house, of my decisions. Jason stayed in my house for 2 weeks. 2 weeks where little by little I got to know a different son, more reflective, more aware, more honest with himself. Every day, he arrived from work, and we had dinner together, like when he was a teenager. We talked about his therapy, about his feelings, about the marriage that was crumbling before his eyes. Ashley called him constantly. At first, he answered, but the conversations always ended the same. Her crying, him feeling guilty, her threatening to stop him from seeing the girls, him giving in a little, her pressuring more. It was exhausting just to listen to. After the first week, Jason started sending the calls to voicemail. The therapist says I need space to think clearly, that as long as I keep answering her calls, she is going to keep manipulating me, that I need silence to hear my own voice. One night, while we were washing dishes together, he told me something I will never forget. Mom, these days here with you have made me realize something. During the last year, I haven't had a single moment of peace. Not one. There was always tension, always having to walk carefully not to upset Ashley. Brenda was always making comments. The girls always demanded attention. And I thought that was what family life was like, that it was normal to feel exhausted all the time. But now, here, eating dinner quietly with you, talking without fear that someone will use my words against me, sleeping without anxiety, I realized that wasn't normal. That was a prison. His words moved me deeply. Son, I am so glad you are seeing this. I really am glad. And I also realized something else, about the hell we put you through. Because it wasn't just Ashley and Brenda. I was also part of the problem. I pressured you. I manipulated you. I made you feel guilty for defending what was yours. And now that I live it from the inside, I understand perfectly why you said enough. At the end of the second week, Jason made a decision. He hired a divorce lawyer. I can't go back, Mom. I know I probably should try more, go to couples therapy, give it another chance. But the truth is, I don't want to. I don't want to go back to that dynamic. I don't want to live the rest of my life feeling guilty for setting boundaries. And above all, I don't want to end up becoming someone who manipulates others the same way they manipulated me. I asked him about the girls, about Chloe and Zoe. His face saddened. That is the highest price I am going to pay. Because I love them, Mom. I really love them. But their mother is already using them as a weapon. She sent me a video of Chloe crying, saying that I abandoned her, that I don't love her anymore. Zoe wrote me a message that Ashley clearly dictated to her, telling me I am a bad man, and I know she is going to make it harder for them every time. There is no way to maintain contact with them. Legally, I have no right. I didn't formally adopt them. I was just the stepfather. The lawyer explained to me that Ashley can cut me completely out of their lives, and I can't do anything about it. The injustice of that hurt me deeply, but I also understood that Jason was choosing his mental well-being over a situation that was destroying him. When Ashley found out about the divorce, she unleashed hell. She started calling me. The first days I didn't answer, but she insisted 3, 4, 5 times a day. Finally, I answered, more than anything to tell her to stop calling. "Margaret? Finally you answer. I need to talk to you." Her voice sounded fragile, broken, the perfect victim. "Ashley, I have nothing to talk to you about. Please, Margaret, just listen to me for 5 minutes. Your son is making the biggest mistake of his life. He is leaving his family on a whim, for a tantrum, and you can make him listen to reason. Jason is an adult. He makes his own decisions, but you are influencing him. Since he is living with you, he changed completely. You poisoned him against me." I felt the rage rising, but I kept my voice calm. "Ashley, I didn't poison him against anyone." Jason woke up. He realized how he was being manipulated, and that is a truth you don't want to accept. Manipulated? Me manipulating? "Margaret, I just wanted a decent roof for my daughters. You have this huge house, and you live alone. Was it so terrible to share it with your family?" "You are not my family, Ashley. You never were. You were my son's wife for a year. A year where you plotted a plan to keep my house. Don't talk to me about family when everything you did was calculated and deceitful." There was an icy silence on the other end. When she spoke again, all the sweetness had disappeared from her voice. "You know what, Margaret? You are right. Yes, I plan to move into your house, because that house should be Jason's, and therefore mine. Because you are a bitter old woman who doesn't deserve to live alone in such a space while there are families who need it. Yes, I used my daughters. Yes, I lied about the apartment. Yes, I manipulated every situation. And you know why? Because it works. Because people like you, selfish and cruel, only react when they are pressured. But you got away with it. You won. Congratulations, Margaret. You kept your precious house. I hope you are very happy there alone, because you are going to die alone, with no one who loves you. I prefer to die alone than live surrounded by people who use me." I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, but from a strange satisfaction. Finally, I had heard the truth without disguises. Finally, the mask had fallen completely. That night I told Jason about the call. He just shook his head. "That is the real Ashley, the one I started seeing in these last few weeks. It doesn't even surprise me anymore." "Do you regret having married her?" He thought a moment before answering. "I regret not having seen the signs. But I don't regret it completely because this experience taught me something valuable. It taught me that I need to work on myself, on my patterns, on my need for approval. If I hadn't gone through this, I probably would have repeated the same mistake with another person." He was right. Sometimes the most painful lessons are the most necessary. The divorce process took 3 months. 3 months of lawyers, papers, negotiations. Ashley asked for alimony, claiming she had stopped working to take care of the girls during the marriage. Jason's lawyer proved that the marriage had only lasted a year, that the girls were not Jason's daughters, and that Ashley had the capacity to work. In the end, there was no alimony. Ashley kept the furniture from the apartment. Jason kept his car and his personal things. It was a clean divorce, without financial ties. But the emotional cost was high. The last weeks of the process, Ashley intensified her smear campaign. She told mutual friends that Jason was violent, that he had hit her, that he had abandoned his stepdaughters without reason. Some believed her. Jason lost friendships, lost contacts, lost a part of his social circle. But he also discovered who his true friends were, those who listened to his version, those who saw the inconsistencies in Ashley's story, those who stayed by his side. When finally the divorce was finalized, Jason cried, not from sadness, but from relief. "It is over, Mom. Officially, it is over." I hugged him tight, feeling his weight, his exhaustion, but also his liberation. I am proud of you, son. Very proud. I couldn't have done it without you. If you hadn't taken me in that night, if you hadn't given me a safe place to be, I probably would have gone back to her. I probably would have continued in that cycle for years. That is what mothers do, son. They protect their children, even when their children are adults. Jason stayed living with me for 6 months in total. 6 months where he rebuilt his life, his self-esteem, his sense of identity. He continued going to therapy religiously. He got a promotion at work. He started going out with new friends, doing activities he enjoyed, living without constant fear. When he finally told me he had found a small apartment for himself alone, I felt a mix of pride and nostalgia. You are ready to live alone again, Mom. I laughed. Son, I have lived alone most of these 2 years. I am more than ready, but I am going to miss you. I am going to miss you too, but I need this step. I need to prove to myself that I can be alone, that I can take care of myself, that I don't need to be in a relationship to feel complete. That sounds perfect to me. The day he moved, I helped him pack his things. There weren't many. They barely filled the car. Before leaving, he stood in the door of my house, looking around as if memorizing every detail. This house saved me, Mom. Literally, it saved me. It wasn't the house, son. It was you. You made the decision to leave. You did the hard work in therapy. You saved yourself. He came closer and gave me a long hug. I love you, Mom, and thank you for not giving in. Thank you for defending your boundaries, even when I pressured you. Because by defending yours, you taught me that I could also defend mine. Now, 6 months after all that, my life has returned to normal. Jason comes to visit me every Sunday. We have lunch together, we talk, we laugh. Our relationship is stronger than ever because it is built on honesty and mutual respect. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had given in, if I had let them move in, if I had sacrificed my peace to keep my son close. And I know, with absolute certainty, that it would have been a disaster. I would have lost my house, my sanity, and eventually my son anyway, because relationships built on manipulation always collapse. By defending my boundaries, I didn't just save myself, I saved my son too. I gave him an example that it is okay to say no, that it is okay to set boundaries, that it is okay to prioritize your mental well-being. And that is a lesson that no amount of money or space can buy. So yes, I lost my peace for a few months. Yes, I suffered. Yes, I faced manipulation and emotional blackmail. But I won something much more valuable. I won my dignity. I won my space. I won the certainty that I can defend what is mine without apologizing. And when I look back to that afternoon where I asked my son why his wife and his family were invading my house, and he threatened me with losing him, and I simply smiled, I know exactly what I answered him. I answered him with my silence first, and then with the simplest and most powerful truth in the world. This is my house, and no one, absolutely no one, is going to make me feel guilty for defending it.